So the idea of this panel, and like I said, this is the closing session, was we have 12 months to go, or less than 12 months actually, maybe 11 months or so just on day to day. And as leaders, and I think all these sessions so far talked about it, um, as leaders, of course, there are lots of questions, perhaps no easy answers, lots of trade-offs to be made, lots of decisions to be made. And obviously with limited time, these get more complicated. I think we also realized through the rest of the sessions today that yes, there could be, and I think Samrat alluded to it, there could be a DPO or a CISO appointed, but at the end of the day, an exercise like this reaches many parts of the organization, right? So those are some of the things we want to explore on this panel. So with that, we'll get going. Try to do this in 20-25 minutes. We'll keep maybe a few minutes for the audience to ask questions. So I'll start with you, Shruti, if that's okay. I think you work obviously in a very online consumer-facing world. You use data for, I guess, acquisition, engagement. You'll have dormant customers. You want to re-engage with them perhaps over time. So how do you think about data governance in this case, and what do you think are the biggest risks that you will have to handle from a privacy standpoint?
So from the privacy standpoint, is it working? So I understand a lot of time we put intentionally or unintentionally a lot of privacy data into the AI models without having a thought process that their leakage might create, disturbance into the overall system. So currently we put governance at the later stage on AI because currently our models are not based for the AI processing entirely. So the governance should be basic for all the infrastructure, and after that, this AI models can run into that. So that should become basis for that. And a lot of times we also give notices or consent that can cover that we will do certain functions on your PI data and all. It can safeguard us that way.
Got it, got it. Dr. Uttam, I'll come to you next. You work at Tata Digital, of course, there are multiple consumer brands. I think we talked about this trade-off. On one side, you want data to be used to maximum extent, perhaps sharing, personalization across bands. On the other side, you have to manage now, like we said, compliance, all of that. So how do you think there is a trade-off? Is the trade-off real? How do you kind of decide to manage this trade-off?
See, I think the first important thing is, I believe law is law, right? So if something has been set forward, rules and regulations, we have to make sure that we follow it. There is no workaround to it. Only if we ensure that we use it properly, we'll be able to continue and we'll have a longer, you can say, attachment with the customers, because Tata is known for trust. Trust is most important, right? In any business that you do. You will not trust if customers lose their trust in your business that you're going to have. See, within Tata Digital, we have multiple brands. Most of these brands, we are a significant data fiduciary because we collect data from multiple Tata companies, right? You go to the hotel, you go to the airlines, you go to the 1MG or Big Basket, the stores, your all data gets collected. Now, the customer is the same, whether he may be visiting different places, but it's the same customer. The most important thing is that we gain the customer's confidence. We, respect his privacy. That's the most important thing. I think business will always happen if we kind of respect, gain the confidence. You'll always figure out a way. And he will, I am a consumer of 1MG. I get my medical test done at 1MG. I also go and stay to the hotel. I obviously want the offer to be sent to me, because if there's an offer, I want to receive that offer. If there's an airlines which is sending an offer, I think you will like to receive an offer. So as a consumer, if I put myself as a consumer, I would also like to receive an offer if there is an offer. So that has to be valid. It has to be my interest. But if certain things I'm not interested in and you are trying to push those things, you will anyway not buy it. So in my view, the whole thing is we respect what people want. It also become micro-focused. As of today, you get too many things. It may not give you a result. So when you have focused thing, when you say, hey, I'm interested in this, you are genuinely interested into this, and you will your chances of making that thing or buying that thing is very high. So you will actually optimize the resources of your organization, optimize the time of the people as well, and you will reduce the wastage, and you will respect more privacy. And that's how I look at law. Because if the law has been enacted, it has been enacted with a lot of mind. So when you go back the history of why this law was enacted, you will understand, each and every individual should feel privileged that this law has come in, right? We have a right to privacy, and therefore it is important for any company to operate, should not look around bypassing it, rather complying it to the full extent with the intent to make sure they get eventually benefited out of this law, and not a hindrance.
Yeah. No, I think, so in your mind, the trade-off is not really there. It's in some sense, you do the right thing and value will.
It's a value. It's a value for the company because you'll end up wasting whatever effort was being wasted. It's more utilized, it's more focused, and it is more output driven rather than it was just being pushed. So that's why I see it as a value, and value for both the companies as well as for individual.
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Sanjay, I'll turn over to you. Obviously you represent a completely different industry, media. In some sense, the job of the media is to put as much information out there, right? So as you are on this journey now to get compliant, how are you seeing, similar question, but, and I asked to Dr. Uttam, but in a different light. Obviously you have subscribers, you want to engage with them, personalize news, and do as much personalization as possible, right? Also in your industry, this notion of freedom to know and things. So how do you balance business objectives of what a media industry operates and what is required by law?
So, I think the most important aspect over here is we want to give the user the more personalized content, and like Doctor said, if the user wants it, he would give the consent. So we focus on getting the user's consent for getting or to personalize the data or the content which he wants to see. There are challenges to get the consent also with respect to specifically to the legacy data. There are legacy systems which are giving us some nightmares of how to get the consent from the users. So coming back to the point, the key challenges what we are facing, like I said, the legacy system is one area wherein we are struggling on how to get those users to give the consent for the next steps. Along with that, we are also focusing on privacy by design. So whatever new systems which we are looking at creating, we want privacy to be part of the core structure rather than just as an add-on and just plugged in onto an existing system. So that's what we are looking at as a Times Internet and as a media organization. Considering there are various impact analysis which we are doing in terms of how to get more personalized content or information to user, and that's the way we are moving from the advertisement to the more subscription-based solutioning, so that the user knows what he is looking to get and the consent is given on that scenario.
Got it. Thank you, Sanjay. I'll come back to you, Shruti. In the space you operate, of course, and again, this links back to the discussions we've been having, right? Of course, you engage with the customer, but you also engage with lots of other people you pass data to that you dependent on, could be brokers, agents, all those people who operate in your ecosystem. And I think we were having this discussion about, yes, I could have taken consent, but eventually it passes to them. Some of them might be even too small to be data fiduciaries themselves, right? So they kind of not even data processors, because you can't say. So how do you, in this world, how do you manage that responsibility? Because clearly, customers coming to you, that data probably goes out. How do you the challenge of saying now that is not used for some other purpose? how do you tackle the challenge like that? That's on a lot of people's minds. So
Yeah, so
would love to
currently
hear your thoughts.
actually the fact is that we are also struggling with the solutions because it's clearly my data will be passed to a third person, and in most of the cases these third person are very small. So they do not have the infrastructure to ensure that the kind of infosec requirements are there are actually met. Plus they do not have the deletion capabilities. The data fiduciary, yes, comes to, the data principal, yes, comes to my platform. I have the entire responsibility to ensure that the data is safe and secure. But once this passes through the another platform, I think, I asked sir also from MITI, once the data goes from my platform, I think I'll have to treat them as a data fiduciary himself rather than calling out the processor, because I cannot take the responsibility of ensuring that the person whom I have transferred the data will use the data only for a limited purpose. To restrict him, to ask him to delete it, these kind of responsibilities will be very difficult for us to actually take on. So this is still a process that we are trying to figure out how we can do it.
Got it. Dr. Uttam, I'll come to you, and maybe I would like your take on the same thing. But beyond that also, if once you maybe cover that, I also wanted to ask you on the topic of today, right, which we were saying there's of course AI, privacy, data governance that is connected now to cyber, risk, trust. Do you see all of these now converging? And maybe before that, your thoughts on what Shruti said.
I think it's already converging. I am the CISO in DPO as well. So that answers the question, right? So see, today I think every technology is converging. They are leaving, for example, if you look at, I mean, we are discussing about AI, we are discussing about privacy, we are discussing cybersecurity. Do you think there are three different? No. In my view, from a customer point of view, and a lot of customers, when you go and talk to them, they can hardly differentiate, right? If privacy breach has happened or a security breach has happened, I'm talking about the layman's on the ground. They all feel that there is something, which is related to security, whether it is to privacy. This is very difficult for them to differentiate. So when we come at the corporate layer, why do we create a differentiation? Now, look at the other point of view. If it is an attacker, do you really care? Whether it is they only care about getting into your system, doing something which makes them money. So when they have that mindset, how can you have a different mindset in an organization? So you all have to come together, whether you belong to a legal function, whether you belong to cyber function, a risk function. I mean, we have created our own silos. The silos has not been created by somebody who's outside.
True.
When regulator will look at a lens, they will not have a different lens. Who missed the bus? That's an organization which has missed the bus. If you look at the regulator's lens, it's one, is an organization. When you look at the attacker's third party's lens, it's one. So why do we create different lenses within the organization? See, I am of the view that it's an organization on which the DPDP is imposed. Therefore, organization, every department has to come together. There has to be a very close working when there's an incident which happens. There has to be one response plan, which should ideally, whether it is to be, because we are having a regulation with certain, certain has certain things. We have RBI, we are responsible to comply. We comply to IRDA, we comply to healthcare bodies. So a lot of these bodies we comply. But eventually, the core of it can be one. So you may have one single process which may notify to different bodies. You may have to develop, the synergies among departments to make sure that you treat all these entities in one and you kind of, send those notices, information so that their regulations are not breached, because the different regulations requires a different. So how can you have one single framework which meets all these regulations? Because we have multiple companies. I cannot have multi-companies, multi-process. It has to be one common way of ensuring that all compliance. Sorry, I've given you a long answer, but that's how it is. So always look at how outsider, a third party or attacker is looking at you and try to respond back. How you can better get organized, whether DPO reports to CISO, whether it reports to legal or reports to some other function. How will that help? And what is the structure that you should have wherever this person may be sitting? But what makes it more efficient for that kind of organization that you are in to respond faster to that kind of queries which is coming for regulator or attack which is coming from a third party? What makes it better? And again, the answer is in the organizational context.
No, thank you. Sanjay, over to you. Again, building on that question and today's topic, again in media, I'm sure a lot of use of AI, Gen AI. At least we hear that a lot of the content is now, obviously there's final editorial input from journalists, etc. But a lot of the content is sort of early versions are created through AI. So probably one of the industries where this is used the most for even not just internal functioning, but probably even what the final end product, right? So how do you, in this context, how are you balancing all of these things around privacy, use of AI, data governance, and therefore the risks that come with it?
So, interestingly, what has happened is when the AI bandwagon came in, everyone was joining on it and they were generating content through the AI. Now, Google has understood and all the search engines have started penalizing. So, you can't use just a blind AI to generate lots of content. So interestingly, what has happened, the teams at the editorial end has started using it more wisely in terms of how that content can be get better results in Google Discovery or search or any other platforms. Having said that, with regard to the point which you made specifically to the challenges or how to get that balance between the editorial and the content creation through the AI and the Gen AI model. Like I said, we are trying to learn few things from various factors, such as how to get these AI, the content which we generate to the AI model and get the result back. We create our own systems using the AI platforms so that we try to humanize the content more and more, so that our biggest challenge of getting that into penalized by search engines is actually minimized. So we are trying to figure out the answer to it right now. Yes, we are doing some hit and trials, but yes, there are some results which are good, but still long way to go on that.
Thank you. I think last couple of questions, and before we open to the audience, come back to you, Dr. Uttam. It was talked about earlier. With this act, also the DPB is going to be virtual, digital first. The understanding is therefore the bar on compliance, maybe speed of response or the extent of compliance could be more. We don't know yet. So what kind of challenges? Of course, you come from a digital first organization, so it might be more natural for you. But what kind of challenges you think people should be prepared for, given this is the expectation?
I think obviously the speed matters. Okay. Second one is, I think the biggest challenge you will face is once there's a breach which has happened, and you need to notify the customers, right? And that's where the challenge lies. What is your efficiency that you have? What time you make a decision, so that you have decided? Because see, what has been happening on ground is people take huge amount of time to make and arrive to many decisions. Now that decision needs to happen on certain very time-bound manner. There are some specific number of hours you need to make decision, you need to communicate, and so on and so forth. So every company, whether it's a digital, non-digital company, needs to have a very clear defined process along with timelines. I would assume it's with an automation, right? For example, if I'll give you my perspective to it, if your SOC team is able to detect an incident of data leak which has happened, and they're of the opinion that yes, the data leak has happened, why would you wait for somebody else to send a notification? It should be at the click of their button when the communication can go. Or if you're talking about agentic framework where there are bots who is monitoring it, right? Probably it will require a validation, just a validation or a glimpse where maybe a DPO can send that communication back to the regulators with the click of a button. So I believe that we should use technologies to solve this problem, and there are technologies available to solve the problem. We have to use technologies because it can't, and it has to be as seamless and as automated as possible, where there has to be an interface. And I'm sure the companies like Identify will come up with solutions where you can give all these things to a DPO on their handheld, right? And they don't need to go and open their laptop to send this. So I'm sure these solutions will come in where things will be perfectly automated, almost real time, where whatever is needed is just a click away.
Thank you. My last question, Shruti, to you, and then we'll take a couple of questions from the audience. Like we said, 11 months to go. Your own organization is gearing up, of course. How are you seeing the rest of the, ecosystem around you respond? Are you seeing people moving at the same speed? The level of seriousness, is that coming in? And any advice you have for organizations who are on this journey with 11 months to go?
So frankly, I can speak about my organization. So the speed that we are moving is like immense. Every day there are certain things that we are coming up. We are on the top of it, trying to, but we all know that there are certain things that are still not defined and the answers to which we are still waiting. As mentioned, the SDF, the countries where data cannot be transferred, there are certain questions that we're still waiting on. But we have started it. In fact, we feel like that we have less time now. This is moving so fast already. So we are doing everything in our capacity to just move this fast on. And every month there are certain, cadences set up with the senior leaderships to ensure that where the project is, what are we doing. So for my industry, for my organization, I can definitely say that we are moving really fast to ensure that we are on the compliance side of DPDP.
Perfect. So with that, any couple of audience questions, happy to take them. Please feel free to ask. I think these leaders represent different industries, obviously at different stages of their journey. Please feel free to ask.
Hello.
Yes, please.
This is Deepika. So I have a question specific to data processor. So
Could you keep the mic a little closer?
yeah.
Yes.
So since DPDP has reference of data processor, my specific question is that right now also we are doing the this vendor due diligence process at the time of onboarding and then on ongoing basis also. And also we have the agreement in place wherein all the data protection related clauses, data security related clauses are already very much there, coming from the RBI outsourcing guideline as well. So my specific question is that if we are, religiously complying with these two things, first due diligence, proper due diligence, and then, tightly bound agreement, are we done with the data processor side compliance part, or there are some specific guardrails or other checklists which we have to, think through before onboarding any, vendor from the perspective of data, this DPDP Act?
This is a tricky question, so I'll give it to Dr. Uttam. I guess the question is, beyond the contract and the due diligence, is that enough? What else do you need to do with data processors?
See, I think you need to define your own guardrails, right, in terms of what makes you comfortable, right? That's the most important thing. What business you are getting into, what are the contractual agreements. So you need to be firstly comfortable with any company that you're working with. And those comfort is part of your due diligence. So if I'm going to give my data with somebody, right, I really ask him what will he do with the data. I go and have a chat with him saying, hey, what will you do with it? Similarly, if you're going to have a company who's your processor, you need to be very sure of what, maybe what is his business is in, what is his credibility, not just a contractual agreement. So any company, when sharing any data with somebody, has to do the due diligence to ensure that what the business they are in, what are the, capabilities that they have, what is the security measures that they have implemented. And this all should come as a part of your due diligence. That's one. Second is, you should have a good contractual agreement. I think there are a lot of lawyers sitting around, and they can always help you with a good contractual arrangements, which ensures that your safety, security of data. But on top of it, I would also request a security baseline. So you need to ensure it's not just, what we see is a privacy or it's an outcome. But at the back, you have to have a very strong footprint of that company, should have a very good security baseline to ensure that they have a principle in place to ensure whatever you do is secure. Because that goes beyond, because your privacy and all these things will come as an outcome, but security goes underneath. So these are some of the basic things that you look at, and all the things that we discuss as part of the law, right? How do you ensure that they have right process? The net is you need to have a strong foundational pre-check assessment done before you engage. And if you're already engaged, you must relook at whether that engagement is right or wrong.
One more?
Thank you.
Yeah, please, please, go ahead.
So as a process, we have also starting doing before any vendor onboarding. In fact, the legacy vendors also, we have started doing this TPRM exercise for along with.
See, I think generally what we do, and I mean, as a professional, I can just say that, look, when we see TPRM, it's a just tick in the box, okay? And while, you know, you will have all the regulators saying, hey, do the TPRM, that's good enough, I'm sorry, but you need to go a little bit beyond that due diligence. So you need to understand what is their security posture. Just beyond that, evidences, you need to understand what they have deployed. So if you don't have a confidence in what they have done, just a tick in the box will not do, because your 250 crore is at stake.
No, you want to add, Shruti?
No, that's it. I was just saying that, yeah, along with the evidences, we have started doing it. And in fact, we have, if the vendor doesn't pass that particular test, along with the evidences, we are already started finding an alternative.
Interesting. Any one more question? I guess people are waiting for dinner, so. Any other question from the audience? Yeah, please.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Prashansa from Cast24. I think a lot about what my team does is similar to Shruti. And interestingly, you mentioned that, we try to resolve vendor management problems sometimes by making them the data fiduciary. I would like to ask you about that because I'm sure there's a lot of pushback there as well. Not every data processor is willing to assume the position of a data fiduciary. And I mean, it's an ideal thumb rule that every data that goes out, they might as well be the data fiduciary. But I'm sure there's a pushback. So how do you deal with that?
So actually, we do not have a standard format answer for that. We are also trying to struggle with that problem and how can we define them as a data processor, data fiduciary. What we are trying to reach at this stage is that we are ensuring that whatever the terms and conditions that we sign then, because most of them are click and wrap kind of a thing. So we are just ensuring that those terms and conditions are robust enough to ensure that at least we have an auditability, that whenever we go to the board, if in case this happens, that we have the show cause that we have done more and above to ensure that whoever with whom we have shared data, we have ensured that they have robust technologies, or we have ensured that they are also responsible and liable for that. Plus, we are also taking some training sessions with each of these people, so they are also aware that what are the regulations and what are the liabilities that will be imposed on them.
And just a quick question about what do you do with legacy vendor relationships?
These are so difficult questions. We are also trying to do, and just to add to your question, so a lot of cases, AI goes into your platform and posts a lot of data. So we are not sure that how do we treat these data and how do we obtain the consents from these particular principles, because we don't have any idea about that how will we do that. But for now, we have started doing it. We have started collecting the legacy data, which are 3 years old and stuff. And we are already starting that how we will roll out their consents to them, because in that case, I think the consent will not be required. The intimation to the notice will be still required.
So if you're having an old legacy data, I think the best is assume that that consent does not exist.
No, sorry. I meant legacy vendor relationships because.
So I think legacy, any relationship of vendor which is legacy, and if they are still in system, you need to relook at and do the assessment that we talked about. Because see, it's not your 250 crore, it's, they will not pay you if you don't have the right job. You must ensure that you have right evaluation of vendor, whether it is legacy, treat it as a fresh in the slate. And if you are not able to establish it, get rid of it.
Thanks. And no, of course, I think these are very difficult questions. I think the idea is that we keep discussing them to find
Yes.
the best fit.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I think while we'll wrap up the panel, of course, please continue the discussions over dinner. I think, as Parito said, the idea is to raise these questions, share. I don't think there are black and white answers to some of them, but at least hopefully we'll all be wiser through the discussion. So with that, we'll wrap up the panel. I'd like to thank all the panelists for joining us and sharing, as well as the audience for asking these questions. we have a memento for each of you for spending your time with us. So just